From a soon-to-be-demolished college campus doubling as a futuristic lab to the famous hotel that became Atlantis, the fantastic journey filmed in some of California's most iconic and peculiar locations. This short-lived sci-fi series recycled everything from sets to sound effects, turned the Batcave into alien terrain, and rushed into production so fast they barely had time to scout locations. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about the fantastic journey. Fact 1. The Bonaventure Hotel became Atlantis. When the fantastic journey needed a futuristic city to represent the advanced civilization of Atlantis, the production team didn't build elaborate sets or travel to exotic locations. Instead, they walked into one of Los Angeles' newest and most architecturally striking buildings, the Westin Bonaventure Hotel. The hotel had only opened its doors in 1976, just months before filming began, and its design was unlike anything else in the city at the time. Architect John Portman had created a complex of 5 cylindrical glass towers that rose dramatically from the downtown skyline, with a lobby featuring futuristic hanging staircases, cascading levels, and reflective surfaces that looked like something straight out of science fiction. For a low-budget television series desperate to create otherworldly settings without breaking the bank, the Bonaventure was perfect. The show's cameras captured the hotel's sleek interior staircases, its unusual geometric shapes, and its shimmering glass elevators to create the impression of an advanced society that existed in a different time zone on the mysterious island. The gamble paid off visually, and the Bonaventure's distinctive architecture would go on to become one of the most filmed locations in Hollywood history, appearing in everything from True Lies to In the Line of Fire, cementing its status as the go-to location whenever directors needed instant futuristic credibility. Fact 2. Filming at a doomed campus. The pilot episode of The Fantastic Journey opens with scenes at the Department of Marine Biology, where scientists prepare for their fateful expedition into the Bermuda Triangle. Those scenes weren't filmed at an actual marine research facility, but rather at Ambassador College in Pasadena, California. The campus, with its Mediterranean-style architecture and manicured grounds, provided an academic backdrop that looked convincing enough for a government-funded scientific institution. For decades after the show aired, fans could still visit the location and recognize the buildings and walkways that appeared on screen during those opening moments. However, that changed in 2013 when the Worldwide Church of God, which owned the property, began demolishing the campus. Over the following years, the historic buildings were systematically torn down to make way for new development. Today, the location where Dr. Fred Walters and his colleague, Dr. Jonathan Willoway, discussed their research before embarking on their doomed journey no longer exists. The demolition erased one of the fantastic journey's most recognizable filming locations from the physical landscape, leaving only archival footage and old photographs as proof that the campus ever served as the launching point for the traveler's adventures through time and space. Fact 3. Batman's Batcave doubled as alien territory. If the rocky terrain and cave entrances in the fantastic journey look strangely familiar, that's because the show filmed extensively at one of Hollywood's most overused locations, Bronson Caves. This man-made tunnel, carved into Griffith Park in the early 1900s during a mining operation, had already achieved iconic status by the time the fantastic journey arrived to shoot scenes in 1976 and 1977. Most famously, the cave served as the entrance to the Batcave in the 1960s Batman television series, with the Batmobile roaring through its distinctive horseshoe-shaped opening in countless episodes. But Batman was just one of dozens of productions that discovered the location's versatility. The caves and surrounding rocky landscape had appeared in everything from westerns to science fiction shows, always dressed up to look like different planets, time periods, or mysterious locations. For The Fantastic Journey, the production team used Bronson Caves to represent various alien and prehistoric environments that the travelers encountered on their journey through the island's strange time zones. The location's proximity to Hollywood studios made it incredibly convenient and cost-effective, requiring only minimal set dressing to transform the familiar Southern California rocks into otherworldly terrain. fans who recognized the location from other shows weren't bothered by the recycling, as reusing recognizable filming spots was standard practice for television production in the 1970s. Fact 4. They recycled Star Trek sound effects television productions in the 1970s operated on tight budgets, and one of the easiest ways to save money was reusing sound effects from the network's library of existing shows. The Fantastic Journey took full advantage of this practice, pulling audio elements from some of NBC's most famous science fiction properties. Sharp-eared fans immediately noticed that many of the show's electronic sounds, energy weapons, and technological devices used the exact same sound effects that had appeared in Star Trek during its original run from 1966 to 1969. The distinctive phaser fire, transporter beeps, and computer chirps that had become synonymous with the Starship Enterprise were suddenly appearing in the Fantastic Journey's various time zones and futuristic settings. The show also borrowed liberally from I Dream of Jeannie, particularly the magical sparkle and whoosh sounds that accompanied Jeannie's supernatural powers, which were repurposed for some of the more mysterious phenomena the travelers encountered. For fans watching the show during its original run, these familiar sounds created an unintentional sense of connection between different NBC science fiction properties, even though the shows had nothing to do with each other. The practice was so common that audiences generally accepted it as part of the television experience, understanding that creating original sound effects for every show would be prohibitively expensive for productions that were already struggling with limited budgets. Fact 5. More location shooting than normal. Most television shows in the 1970s relied heavily on soundstage filming to keep costs down and maintain control over lighting, weather, and logistics. Location shooting was expensive, time-consuming, and unpredictable, which made it something producers tried to minimize whenever possible. The Fantastic Journey, however, took a different approach. Despite operating on a modest budget, the show featured an unusually large amount of location filming throughout Southern California. This decision wasn't made out of luxury, but rather out of necessity and creative problem-solving. The show's premise required the travelers to constantly move through different environments, time periods, and civilizations, which would have been nearly impossible to create convincingly on sound stages alone. By filming at real locations around Los Angeles and its surrounding areas, the production team could achieve visual variety and scope that would have cost a fortune to build from scratch. Beaches, canyons, modern buildings, parks, and institutional facilities all became part of the show's rotating backdrop. The strategy allowed the Fantastic Journey to look more ambitious and expensive than it actually was, giving viewers the sense that the characters were truly exploring a vast and diverse island filled with different zones. The trade-off was increased logistical complexity and the challenge of shooting in public spaces where curious onlookers might wander into frame. But the visual payoff made it worthwhile for a show that needed to convince audiences they were watching something truly out of the ordinary. Fact 6. Zuma Beach became the mysterious island. When audiences watched the pilot episode of The Fantastic Journey and saw the survivors exploring the mysterious island after their ship passed through the Bermuda Triangle, they were actually looking at Zuma Beach in Malibu, California. This expansive stretch of coastline, located about 30 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles, provided the perfect setting for the show's island exteriors. Zuma Beach's wide, sandy shores, dramatic coastal vistas, and relatively unspoiled appearance made it look isolated and otherworldly enough to convince viewers that the characters had washed up on uncharted territory. The irony, of course, was that Zuma Beach was and remains one of Southern California's most popular public beaches, frequented by thousands of sunbathers, surfers, and families throughout the year. During filming in 1976, the production crew had to carefully frame their shots to avoid capturing modern beachgoers, lifeguard towers, and other telltale signs of civilization that would shatter the illusion of an undiscovered island. Early morning shoots helped minimize the presence of crowds, and the beach's natural beauty required minimal set dressing to transform it into the show's primary exterior location. The choice of Zuma Beach also reflected the realities of television production budgets. Flying cast and crew to Hawaii or another tropical location would have been financially impossible for a show that was already stretching every dollar, so finding a convincing beach within driving distance of Hollywood was essential. Fact 7. Griffith Observatory for futuristic scenes. The iconic Griffith Observatory, perched high in the hills overlooking Los Angeles, has appeared in countless films and television shows since it opened to the public in 1935. Its distinctive Art Deco architecture and association with astronomy and science made it a natural choice for science fiction productions looking to add instant credibility to their futuristic or scientific scenes. The Fantastic Journey joined the long list of productions that recognized the observatory's cinematic potential, using the location in multiple episodes to represent various advanced civilizations and scientific facilities that the travelers encountered in different time zones. The observatory's clean lines, geometric shapes, and astronomical equipment provided a ready-made backdrop that suggested technological sophistication without requiring the production team to build expensive sets. Inside the building, the planetarium theater, exhibition halls, and telescope domes all contributed to the impression that the characters were exploring genuinely advanced societies. The location's elevated position also offered sweeping views of Los Angeles below, which could be carefully framed to avoid showing modern buildings, and instead suggest the characters were in some elevated futuristic city. Like many of the show's location choices, the Griffith Observatory represented practical problem-solving that turned necessity into visual advantage. The building's inherent grandeur and scientific associations did much of the heavy lifting in terms of establishing atmosphere and setting, allowing the show to achieve a level of production value that would have been impossible to replicate on sound stages alone. Fact 8. Sets were constantly recycled. Budget constraints forced the Fantastic Journey to become exceptionally creative with how it reused props, set pieces, and scenic elements across its brief 10-episode run. Unlike shows that could afford to build new sets for each episode, the Fantastic Journey operated on such limited resources that the production team had to constantly redress and reconfigure the same basic elements to create the illusion of different time zones and civilizations. Cavernous ruins that appeared in one episode as ancient remnants of a lost society would be rearranged and relit to become a completely different location in the next episode. Metallic frameworks and futuristic panels would be assembled in various configurations to represent advanced technology in different time periods. The same rock formations and artificial cave structures appeared repeatedly throughout the series, dressed up with different lighting, props, and camera angles to suggest entirely new environments. This practice of recycling sets was common in 1970s television, but the Fantastic Journey took it to an extreme out of sheer necessity. The show's premise actually helped disguise the constant reuse, since the travelers were supposed to be moving through an island that contained fragments of different time periods and civilizations all jumbled together. If the same architectural elements appeared in supposedly different zones, viewers could rationalize it as part of the island's strange temporal overlap. Still, attentive fans who watched episodes back-to-back couldn't help but notice when the same corridor or chamber appeared multiple times with only minor modifications. Fact 9. Rushed production led to location scrambling story editor D.C. Fontana, who had previously worked on Star Trek and knew the challenges of producing science fiction television, later recalled the chaotic circumstances surrounding the Fantastic Journey's development and production. According to Fontana, the producers had an extremely compressed timeline to get the show on the air, with development, casting, scripting, and location scouting all happening in a frantic rush, before filming commenced in January of 1977. This abbreviated pre-production period meant that many of the decisions about where to film were made hastily, with location scouts scrambling to find suitable spots around Southern California that could accommodate the show's ambitious premise without blowing the budget. The lack of adequate preparation time showed in various ways throughout the series. Some locations were used repeatedly simply because there wasn't time to find alternatives, and the production team often had to make do with whatever spaces they could secure on short notice. The rushed schedule also meant less time for set design and construction, which contributed to the show's heavy reliance on location shooting rather than controlled soundstage environments. Fontana's recollections paint a picture of a production that was constantly playing catch-up, trying to maintain quality and coherence while racing against network deadlines and budgetary pressures. The fact that the show managed to look as visually ambitious as it did, despite these constraints, speaks to the resourcefulness and dedication of the crew working under less than ideal circumstances. Fact 10. Franklin Canyon and Bronson Caves for pilot. The pilot episode of The Fantastic Journey, which aired in February of 1977, featured extensive outdoor filming that established the show's visual identity and tone. The crucial shipwreck and initial exploration sequences, where the survivors first encounter the island's strange properties after passing through the Bermuda Triangle, were filmed at 2 locations that have served countless Hollywood productions over the decades. Franklin Canyon, a relatively undeveloped area in the Santa Monica Mountains, provided rugged terrain that could convincingly represent an uncharted island. The canyon's hiking trails, natural vegetation, and rocky outcroppings gave the production a variety of environments to work with, all within easy reach of the Hollywood studios. Bronson Caves, which became one of the show's most frequently used locations, also featured prominently in the pilot. The man-made tunnel and surrounding rock formations served as the mysterious cave systems that the survivors explored as they tried to understand their new surroundings. Both locations were chosen partly for their versatility and partly for their convenience, being close enough to the studios that cast and crew could travel there easily without requiring overnight stays or complicated logistics. The pilot's filming took place primarily in 1976, giving the production team a bit more time to plan and execute these important establishing scenes before the series was picked up and the rushed production schedule of the regular episodes kicked in. Fact 11. The Burbank Studios for interior work. While The Fantastic Journey filmed extensively on location throughout Southern California, the show still needed controlled studio environments for certain types of scenes that were impossible or impractical to shoot outdoors. The Burbank Studios, a production facility that was created when Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures merged their television operations, served as the home base for the show's soundstage work. Inside these large warehouse-like spaces, the production team could build interior sets, control lighting precisely, and create the visual effects that the show's premise demanded. Effects-heavy sequences involving futuristic technology, mysterious phenomena, or complex action that required safety equipment and stunt coordination were all shot on these sound stages where conditions could be carefully managed. The studio environment also allowed for more efficient filming of dialogue-heavy scenes where multiple camera angles and takes were needed without the unpredictability of weather, ambient noise, and changing natural light that came with location shooting. The Burbank Studios gave the production team flexibility to create environments that didn't exist in the real world, building modular sets that could be reconfigured as needed to represent the interiors of futuristic buildings, ancient structures, or scientific facilities. The contrast between the gritty realism of the location shooting and the more controlled artificiality of the soundstage work created the show's distinctive visual style, combining authentic California landscapes with carefully constructed science fiction elements. Fact 12. Same locations as Logan's Run. The television adaptation of Logan's Run premiered in September of 1977, just months after The Fantastic Journey was canceled in June of that same year. The 2 science fiction shows shared more than just a network and a time slot. Several members of The Fantastic Journey's production team transitioned directly to Logan's Run when their show ended, bringing with them the knowledge and relationships they had developed while filming around Southern California. This overlap meant that Logan's Run ended up using many of the same filming locations that had appeared in The Fantastic Journey, from the Bonaventure Hotel to various outdoor sites around Los Angeles. The production techniques also carried over, with Logan's Run employing similar strategies of extensive location shooting to create visual scope and variety on a television budget. Both shows face the same fundamental challenge: how to create convincing science fiction environments without the resources that feature films could command. The solution in both cases involved finding modern or unusual architecture that could suggest futuristic settings, scouting natural locations that could be dressed to look otherworldly, and recycling sets and props as much as possible. For viewers who watched both shows during their original broadcasts, there was an odd sense of continuity between them, as familiar locations and visual styles created an unintentional connection between 2 completely unrelated stories about people trying to survive in strange circumstances. Fact 13. The hotel looked like a shopping mall. The Westin Bonaventure Hotel's exterior was undeniably futuristic when the Fantastic Journey used it to represent the advanced Atlantean city, with its cylindrical glass towers rising dramatically from the Los Angeles skyline. However, the interior spaces presented a different challenge for the production team. Inside, the hotel's 1970s design aesthetic included features that looked less like an advanced civilization and more like a modern shopping mall. The multi-level atrium, with its indoor plants, retail spaces, and commercial atmosphere, had a distinctly contemporary feel that occasionally undercut the show's attempts to create a sense of ancient advanced technology. The hanging staircases and geometric shapes helped sell the futuristic illusion, but careful camera placement was essential to avoid capturing elements that would make the Atlantean city look like a place where people might shop for clothing or grab a coffee. The production team did their best to frame shots that emphasized the hotel's more striking architectural elements while minimizing the presence of obvious 20th century details. Still, for viewers watching the show today, the dated 1970s interior design is impossible to ignore, creating an unintentionally retro vision of the future that reveals exactly when the show was made. The Bonaventure's interior worked well enough for television audiences in 1977 who were used to science fiction productions that reflected contemporary design trends, but it serves as a reminder of how quickly futuristic aesthetics can become period pieces. Fact 14. Hollywood Hills doubled for multiple eras. The Hollywood Hills area provided the Fantastic Journey with one of its most versatile filming locations, appearing in numerous episodes as completely different environments depending on how it was dressed and filmed. The varied terrain of the hills, which includes everything from scrubby chaparral to wooded areas to rocky outcroppings, gave the production team a palette of natural features that could be adapted to represent the island's many different time zones. In one episode, a particular hillside location might represent a primitive prehistoric environment where the travelers encountered early human societies. In another episode, the same basic area could be redressed with futuristic props and filmed from different angles to suggest an advanced civilization's outskirts. The key was using camera angles that avoided showing recognizable Los Angeles landmarks in the background, while making the landscape look distinct enough that audiences wouldn't immediately realize they were seeing the same location repeatedly. The Hollywood Hills' proximity to the studios made them especially attractive for shooting, as cast and crew could reach multiple filming spots within a short drive, allowing for efficient production schedules. The natural variability of the terrain also meant that different sections of the hills could provide genuinely different looks, even though they were all part of the same general area. This geographic flexibility was essential for a show built around the concept of travelers moving through constantly changing environments while staying within the constraints of a television production budget. Fact 15. Props repurposed from scrapped pilot scenes. The original pilot for The Fantastic Journey underwent significant changes at NBC's insistence before the series was allowed to proceed. One of the most substantial alterations involved removing an entire subplot about a character who was a 1940s Air Force pilot being held by pirates within one of the island's time zones. When NBC executives demanded this storyline be cut and ordered changes to the cast configuration, the production team had already invested time and resources into creating props, set pieces, and costume elements for these sequences. Rather than waste the materials or absorb the complete loss of that investment, the resourceful crew reportedly salvaged whatever they could from the scrapped scenes. Props and set pieces that had been built for the pirate sequences and the 1940s military storyline were recycled into later episodes, often repurposed to serve completely different functions than originally intended. A piece of equipment designed for one context might be redressed and used as part of a futuristic device in another episode. Costume elements could be modified and incorporated into different characters' wardrobes. This kind of creative recycling was standard practice for productions working with limited budgets, but it took on extra significance for The Fantastic Journey given how much material had to be abandoned after the pilot was reworked. The practice exemplified the make-do spirit that characterized the show's entire production, where nothing could be wasted and every resource had to be stretched as far as possible. As far as possible. As far as possible. As far